Oh yeah, now this is what I call a nether base. I guess we'll move on to the next project. How many shulker boxes do we have again? Right. Well, that can only mean one thing. In this episode, we're going to have to make a shulker farm. So realistically, before we can even start to make this farm, we're going to need to get bamboo and make a bamboo farm. So I guess we'll head off and try and find some bamboo. I think we're either looking for a jungle island, and if not one of those, probably some shipwrecks. There's a temple. Sick. Now this won't have what we want, but that might. Alright, let's have a look. Armor trim. Nice. Diamond horse armor, that's pretty cool. Now we'll go check out this shipwreck. Oh, some more armor trim. Cool. And so we keep on going. Bamboo, sick. Having an elytra makes things so much faster. Now that's a real floating village. Huh, there's a camel here. It'd be cool to try and take this back home, but we are over 1400 blocks away. I reckon I'll try and make it safe, so I can come back for him later. Build across to this house. And sorry buddy, but this is now the camel's house. Use one of those saddles we found. And let's hope that it stays here. So let's continue home. Look, I know I keep getting distracted, but I swear this will be the last thing. We'll be able to breed the camels. Camel base number 2 secured. So in addition to bamboo, we'll also need slime for this farm. And I don't have any. Another farm to add to the list. So now just after returning home with bamboo, we're going to have to go off again and find a slime chunk somewhere. I don't really want this to be visible from my main island, so we'll build it out here in the void instead. Slimes will only spawn in slime chunks at y = 40 or lower, so we'll build a platform across a few chunks and hope that we get some slimes to spawn. Looks like we found a slime chunk. So it looked like it was this one. Yeah, I think it was this one. So we'll just fill in this platform here. And I mean, we can probably clean up all of this as well. And so with that all cleaned up, this farm should actually be pretty straightforward to build. We mostly just need building blocks and iron golems. Although I'm glad I did some testing first, because the slime chunk was actually the next chunk over. So now we can head back and grab our materials. Grabbing some slabs, hoppers, campfires, blocks, iron blocks, pumpkins, and some other bits and pieces. So this design obviously isn't mine, but it essentially just relies on a slime chunk and iron golems. Shout out to Madzify for the tutorial, and I'll leave the link in the description. And so, as is the case with most farms, this wasn't too interesting to build, but you know, pretty much just some platforms for the slimes to spawn on, and then an iron golem dangling in the middle to get the slimes to fall into a pit at the bottom. And so now that the farm's done, we can do a little AFK session. And so after like 20 minutes, we've got some pretty good loot in here. And I guess it's also a tropical fish farm, and that came out to 41 slime blocks. Not bad at all. So with some slime blocks acquired, we can get started on that bamboo farm. How long was I out for?
15 months, newblinky.
15 months. I was absent from this world for 15 months. The village is still the exact same. The librarians, the animals. It's taken me 15 months to come back to build them a bamboo farm. Well, that was a pretty damn long-winded way to say I finished that slime farm 15 months ago. And now we're back to come and finish off the bamboo farm so that we can get onto the shulker farm. I'm pretty much just gonna wing this whole design. I have already sort of half tested it in a creative world just so I knew that the idea of what I was doing was going to work, but there's really nothing too fancy about a bamboo farm, especially when the easiest way to deal with them is just by having flying machines. So if I start off by keeping in mind that I want the chests to be here, and then because we're putting in an auto crafter so that we automatically just get bamboo blocks, we can start with that. I'm really not the best redstone guy, and it's probably going to be pretty apparent by what I come up with here, but I definitely find it fun having a go at new things. So I mean, there's that at least. And the most important thing is going to be testing stuff along the way, because I've already stuffed up by making this one block too long. All right. Cool, so we're getting the redstone signal to the crafter, which is powering it. That's a good start. Now I can set up a minecart collection system. Another pretty simple circuit with repeaters and torches. And now we can basically define how big this bamboo farm is by how big the minecart collection track is underneath. And then because we need to put powered rails on here as well, I need to power some of the blocks in the middle. Of course, I could use redstone blocks, but because I have to buy redstone with emeralds, I am going to use levers instead. And now to put down all of the rails. And I run out of rails, but you know, too short, doesn't really matter. There's going to be more loss in the entire system than just 2 blocks. So anyway, just wanting to quickly test that the minecart can run back and forth, and then also whether or not it stops here. Awesome. Everything seems to be working. So now I can move on to planting some bamboo. So I went around with a cobblestone trim around the edge, and then filled in the middle with dirt, and then placed down the bamboo that we have to start growing. So of course, to get the bamboo to start growing, I need to put in some torches. But yeah, I've essentially just gone around and made sure that every single block is light level 9 or higher. So all of this bamboo can actually grow. And now for the fun part of making some flying machines. So I'll start with the return stations. And those are pretty straightforward. They pretty much just see when the flying machine reaches them, and then sends a pulse back to this trapdoor, which then sends the flying machine back in the other direction. And so then the other part to that is locking the flying machine on one end and setting it up with a hopper clock so that it will only send out once every so often. So now I've got the hopper clock set up. We just fill it up with some blocks. I tested this timing in a creative world, so just got to make sure that everything's working. And yeah, I've got chunk borders shown because I didn't want this crossing a chunk border just in case it would screw something up. So, and there we go. That's exactly what I wanted to do. And so the last step to this is setting up the actual flying machine. And there you go. Although it looks like I made that one block too far forward. So I will just move this bamboo from the edge. It's fine. It's really, really not an issue. Okay, I swear. And so now we can see it return. And it'll stay in place until the redstone clock gets back to 0. And so now that all the bamboo is placed in and everything's set up and good to go, the last thing I want to do here is build up some glass walls so that none of our bamboo falls off the edge like what's happening at the moment. Trade with some of our villagers. And while I'm doing this, some of our villagers still need names. So if you'd like to name one of the villagers in this world, leave some name suggestions down in the comments. And who knows, maybe next episode you'll have a villager named in this village. I could have just about gone insane from all those villager noises just now, but we now have all the glass to fill up these walls. So now that it's all finished, we can head down into our secret entrance. And we can see that we're already starting to get blocks of bamboo. And then we can come out the back to find all the redstone and stuff if I ever need to fix any problems. But yeah, that's the bamboo farm all done. Only downside to this is I now have minecart noises underneath the footpath here. But either way, the main reason I set up this bamboo farm is because I need 1200 scaffolding to make this shulker farm. So gonna need to do some AFKing down here for a little bit. Well, fortunately for me, all of this bamboo only took about 20 minutes of AFKing. So the rates I'm getting from this farm are pretty good. And then there should be plenty of string in our mob farm chests, which we can then just turn all of this into scaffolding. And now to go sort out the rest of the materials. So now with the scaffolding and the other bits and pieces, we can fly off to the end. Alright, well first things first, we've got to head out to the End Islands and find an end city. Here we go, that didn't take too long. Just got to double check that I haven't already raided this city. Yep, okay, we've got a shulker, this is good. And it's right next to an end gateway as well, so this is pretty ideal. Well, quick piece of advice for anyone ever wanting to use YouTube tutorials to build farms, definitely make sure that you try them out in a creative world first. Because as I just found, the farm that I was going to use has actually been nerfed in a recent update. Are you kidding me? What, so I wait here for an hour and this is all I get? 750 plus per hour? Yeah, okay. Right, that's great. So now we're just going to have to go back to the overworld and collect some different materials for this different farm. Okay, now let's try this again. So I started building the farm and I actually screwed it up to start with, but fortunately I realized not too far into the build. So I then had to spend about 45 minutes moving the snow golems that I'd already placed in. But after I had them in place, it was as simple as just placing a bunch of scaffolding and slabs. Now for the fun part of getting a shulker into the farm. I'm hoping this should be pretty straightforward because everything should already be spawn proofed, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. I've just got to get this rail track all the way over to there. Okay, and now for the moment of truth. Give this another go. There we go. Now I've just got to try and get it away from the wall though. Well, this is going about as well as I kind of expected it to. Just let me get this in. Yep, there we go. Cool. Bro is off. Please go in. Please go in. I think he's in there. Sick. Okay, I did it. I did it. Alright, I'll just turn this on and make sure that it works. It's just duplicated itself. That's a good start. From what I understand, this thing's going to take a few minutes to get going. So I AFK'd for about half an hour to see what sort of rates we're going to get from this thing. Okay, so this thing is loud AF, but let's see how it went. That is kind of crazy. Whoops. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have AFK'd. I didn't realize these guys would be able to sit on the chorus plants. That's okay though. So I'll just turn it off and we can tidy up around here a little bit. Let's just clear off these guys. Well, now that it's tidied up, I'll just grab out some of these shulkers. And good to know I don't need to spend that long here to actually get heaps of shulker shells. I would say this has been a pretty successful adventure. Well, if y'all don't mind, I've got some planning to do for the next episode. So I'll see you all there.